for the year 21-22, which is now coming to an end, and this year's B, 94,452 crores have been given with an increase of 137%. So there has been continuously, and there's allocation for Mission Poshan, which is meant for nutrition, and also Swasth Bharat Yojana, which gets 64,180 crores over a period of 6 years. So specifically issues related to health emergency response system, health emergency infrastructure, the allocations have been steady from 2020 and substantial in order that health infrastructure get strengthened. So I'm looking around only to make sure the issues raised by the members and those members are present here because some of the members are not here, but the issues raised by them are important. There is a kind of a practice which I've got used to in the Lok Sabha where the speaker has, of course that shouldn't matter here, but I would just say it, saying if the member who raised the issue is not here, you don't need to respond to them. But I would still think, because for the benefit of the House here, even if the member is absent, I would want to respond to it because the issues raised have been very important. Sir, Member Amar Patnaik had raised, based on his, I think, vast experience in dealing with accounts and also being very familiar with public accounts and so on, has raised very critical questions about cesses and surcharges. Cess and surcharge having become very much more significant, his concern was, has it led to a situation where the state's share in the devolution has come down? I would seek your indulgence, sir, in that I would go through a bit of an elaborate explaining it in 3 different silos, because it's a very important aspect of the debate, and I think all of us, every member would want to know about it, and I would rather put this up front so that people know the arguments which every now and then, even during the question hour or otherwise, all of us give as response. It may sound, many people, without the narration here, it looks as if we are just saying, no, we have not. But actually, I'll put before this august House the facts which govern. So, as per Article 271 of the Indian Constitution, all taxes and duties, except surcharges and cesses levied for, after all, they are levied for specific purposes, shall be distributed to the Union and between the Union and the states. That is well laid out. The percentage of share for the states in the net proceeds is recommended by the Finance Commission, and then it is accepted by the Government of India from time to time. Sir, and also further, as per Article 279 of the Indian Constitution, the net proceeds of shareable central taxes shall be certified by the Controller and Auditor General. So it's not as if I can determine something and say this is the net proceeds. It is certified by the CAG for any particular year. Accordingly, the CAG of India certifies the total shareable pool of taxes every year. He certifies it, so it's not a random subjective number. And then the Government of India devolves that amount, that certified amount, to the states. So this is well established, and there is no way any individual or any government can tinker with that process. That is established. So for instance, now I go to my first silo for my response to Amar Patnaik ji. For instance, the share of the states in devolution in central taxes was projected as under for this budget. In the BE 21-22, meaning for the year which is ending in another 1 or 2 days, when it was presented in the budget, the BE said 6.66 lakh crores is the share of states in devolution. That's a BE. RE 2021-22 for this year RE, which is the year which is in running. In the next 2 days, it's going to get concluded. It is 7.45 lakh crores. Honorable members will be pleased to know. I'm glad Amar Patnaik ji is here. So all the more reason why I have to respond. Honorable members will be pleased to know that what I have devolved this year in the place of 7.45 lakh crores, which is my RE. My BE was 6.66 lakh crores. What I've actually devolved is 8.35 lakh crores as on date. So, not just the BE, not just the RE, which is higher than the BE, but actually much more than that. And this is a 1.69 lakh crores more than the BE. So, 90,000 crores over the RE. Over the BE, 1.69 lakh crores have given more. Over the RE, which itself is an elevated RE, 90,000 crores has been given in excess of what I put in the RE figures. How did this come about? So before I go to that, one-time payment which I've done this year, as a result of which this hike was possible, I just want to go into the detail of a table. The net proceeds which gets authorized by the Controller and Auditor General, if I can take the figures for a moment so that the honorable members will be informed. The net proceeds is arrived at from the gross tax revenue, which includes the cesses and surcharges and everything else, the gross tax revenue, then remove from it the cesses and surcharge, then remove from it the cost of collection, and then you arrive at the net proceeds. I'm sure Amar Patnaik ji is here, he can say if I'm going on the right track. So you arrive at the net proceeds. And that net proceeds is what is authorized by the CAG, and based on which, given the formula by the Finance Commission, the amount gets distributed to the states. I'll just read the numbers, sir. So that between 2019-20, 2021, and 21-22, we know the flow of how things are. The state's share, I'll directly come to that and go back to giving backward linkage. The fear that states are getting lesser, I just want to address that straight away. State share, sir, in 2019-20, I'm talking of the actual share which went to the states, was 6,83,353 crores. 1920 actual. 2021 actual. 6,15,841. 21-22 budget estimate 6,65,563 over the 1920 figure, 2021 figure. 2021-22 is 6,65,563. 21-22, the same year, for which the BE was 6,65,563, the revised estimate shows you 7,20,557, which is the revised estimate for this year, which has 2 more days to go. So, the RE actually is shown as 835 only because I have a long overdue amount which has been lying from 2014-15, which was constantly being discussed with the CAG, which had to be paid to the states, and states had to give some amount to us. all this reconciliation has been going on from 2014-15. I take that up now, so that we know why the actual, not just because of the net payable due, net proceeds are higher on their own, but there's also this one-time payment which I have made this year. One-time payment, I say, because unpaid dues to the states from their share of central taxes from, would you believe it, from 1996-97, 1996-97 till 2014-15 have been continuously being under negotiation with the CAG. I picked up that also. We have been talking with the CAG, discussions were held. So the unpaid dues which the states need to get and the dues which the states had to give to the center were all worked out clearly, reconciled. Net, 43,000 crores had to be given to, devolved to the states. So there was some amount which the states owed to the center, some amount which the center owed to the states, all this piling up from 1996-97 till 2014-15. Even that was taken up, negotiated, discussed with the CAG, and the CAG, after reconciling these two dues from here, both have been reconciled. 43,000 crores we have cleared as of 28 February 2022, this year. It was Modi government which has cleared this due. Since 1996-97 till 2014-15, the CAG... Please. Since then, the negotiations happened or not, at least we picked it up and we have settled this. So today, when I say that the revised estimate, because of better handling of all the cesses and surcharges being given to the states, as well as this 43,000, just 43,000 also getting added, goes up to 8.35 lakh crores. 8,35,000 crores. I'm right. So 8,35,000 crores as RE, which is 1.69 lakh crores more than the BE itself, and 90,000 crore over the RE, which is an enhanced amount. So in this, now I've explained that one-time payment which has been pending from 96-97 till 2014-15, that lock, stock and barrel has been cleared now, net approved by the CAG. So that leaves me with having to explain what happens to the cesses and the surcharges. For example, sir, this I go to the third silo. For example, 2013-14 to 2022-23, I give the cumulative amounts, the actual utilization of the health and education cess, which is a question which many honorable members have been asking. Oh, you've been collecting health cess, you've been collecting education cess, where is it going? You're collecting it and keeping it for yourself. States are suffering because to that extent their revenue is coming down. Not at all. The actual utilization of health and education cess, I think it was formerly called as primary and secondary higher education, primary, secondary and higher education cess. Now then it was changed to health and education cess. The cumulative total, sir, is expected to be 3.94 lakh crores as against the estimated collection.
Please, Mr. Vinay Viswamji, no, please. No. Please.
I'll give you everything that you want, Honorable Member Vinay Vishnu. But when you obstruct my flow,
please.
I just can't,
Please do not obstruct. This is not right, Mr. Vinay Viswam. Sitting on the... let her reply, then let her reply. No, please. You have already spoken, let her reply. No, this interruption is not correct. Please read the rules and procedure. It's very clearly mentioned that while sitting you cannot comment. Please.
Sir, sorry for repeating. From 2013-14 to 22-23, which is including the forthcoming year, from 1st April onwards, the actual utilization of health and education cess is expected to be 3.94 lakh crores as against an estimated collection of 3.77 lakh crores. Collection is only 3.77 lakh crores estimate, whereas its actual utilization is going to be 3.94. This cess is primarily funding centrally sponsored schemes which happen in the states, wherein the funds are being transferred to state governments. So the health and education cess, much higher than what is being collected, is going to the states till 22-23. So on the health and education cess, जितना भी आशंका है, डाउट्स है, किसी का मन में भी, प्लीज उसको दूर करें. कलेक्शन इज 3.77 लाख करोड़, मगर उसमें उठाने वाले खर्च 3.94 लाख करोड़, मतलब केंद्र सरकार उसमें जोड़ करके दे रही है. कलेक्शन को लेकर के बैठ नहीं रही है बिना खर्च भी उठा रहे हैं, उसमें हमारे पैसा भी जोड़ रहे हैं. इसीलिए सेस का विषय में जब भी उठाते हैं प्रश्न, केंद्र सरकार उस सेस को कमा रही है, वो कमाई हमारे साथ शेयर नहीं कर रही है, बिल्कुल नहीं. सेंट्रली स्पॉन्सर्ड स्कीम के द्वारा हर पैसा उधर जाता है, उससे ज्यादा भी जाता है. सो उसमें स्पष्टता रहे. सर, सेकंड, दूसरा सेस का उदाहरण, क्योंकि बार बार उसके ऊपर भी डाउट्स आते हैं लोगों के मन में. अरे कॉम्पनसेशन का सेस इतना कलेक्ट करते हैं, स्टेट्स को नहीं देते हैं, स्टेट्स को इतना बकाया है. स्टेट्स का बकाया हम तय नहीं करते, जीएसटी काउंसिल तय करता है कितना अभी देना, बाकी कब देना है. वो जुलाई 22 से जो सेस का बढ़ाया काल समय बढ़ाया 26 जनवरी तक, मार्च तक, वो पैसा भी कॉम्पनसेशन सेस से कलेक्शन उसका तय करने वाले, मतलब वो कॉम्पनसेशन सेस का तय करने वाले जीएसटी काउंसिल, फिर भी उसका भी आंकड़ा में दे देती है. जीएसटी कॉम्पनसेशन सेस टोटल यूटिलाइजेशन फ्रॉम 2017-18, जब से जीएसटी लागू है तब से टोटल यूटिलाइजेशन अप टू 22-23, मतलब अप्रैल 1 से जो साल आने वाले हैं उसको भी जोड़ करके मैं डिटेल्स दे रही हूं, इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू बी 6.01 लाख करोड़. मगर उसमें कलेक्शन कितना है जी? 5.63 लाख करोड़. किसी का बकाया नहीं है, मगर पैसा भी नहीं है देने के लिए. वो आएगा जुलाई से, आने के बाद वो भी हम देंगे, मगर पैसा नहीं दिया. पर्टिकुलरली बीजेपी शासन जहां नहीं है उनको नहीं दे रहे, हम बैठ रहे हैं उसके साथ. भैया कहां है पैसा, दिखाओ जो मैं इधर रख के बैठ रही हूं. डेटा दे रही हूं जी, आप एक बार चाहिए तो किसी सीएजी से भी बात करिए. मालूम है ना, डिजिटल है जी, डिजिटल है. मैं रख नहीं सकती हूं, आप आरोपी नहीं लगा सकते हैं. डिजिटल है तो आरोपी नहीं लगाओ, आपको भी समझ में आएगा. डिजिटल है,
प्लीज
डिजिटल है, आरोप लगाने वाले भी सोच समझ करके आरोप लगाओ. तीसरी, थर्ड, सर
आपकी कोई बात रिकॉर्ड पे नहीं जा रही है. जो
रनिंग कमेंट्री का भी जवाब दे पाएंगे आज रनिंग कमेंट्री को भी देऊंगी जी जवाब. हाँ, ये नहीं है कि बोल करके चली जाना, रिकॉर्ड में आ गया, जवाब नहीं मिले, नहीं, आज हर एक का जवाब मिलेगा।
प्लीज
रनिंग कमेंट्री को देना ही नहीं
बैठकर
पड़ता,
आपस
सर।
मिस्टर हुसैन, प्लीज हुसैन, प्लीज डू नॉट डू इट,
डेप्यूटी चेयरमैन सर,
प्लीज।
हाँ,
ये आप तय नहीं करेंगे, प्लीज बैठ जाइए, प्लीज बैठिए, आपकी कोई बात रिकॉर्ड पे नहीं जा रही, आप अनऑथराइज्ड वे में बोल रहे हैं। प्लीज फॉलो द रूल्स, प्लीज, नो, यू हैव टू फॉलो द रूल। प्लीज बैठिए, अब प्लीज बैठिए, हर क्षण हर बात में जवाब मांगते हैं आप बीच में डिस्टर्ब मत क्या करिए, अदरवाइज आई विल फोर्स टू टेक योर नेम। बीच में डिस्टर्ब न करें
सर। रूल के हिसाब से जवाब देना ही पड़ेगा, मैं भी मानती हूँ, मगर जो खड़े होकर के आपकी अनुमति से बात करते हैं उनको देना ही पड़ता है, रनिंग कमेंट्री को नहीं। ये स्पष्ट रहे सर। सर, टोटल यूटिलाइजेशन, तीसरे एग्जाम्पल, मैंने पहले एग्जाम्पल दिया हेल्थ और एजुकेशन सेस का, दूसरी कॉम्पनसेशन सेस का, तीसरी दे रही हूं जो बहुत ही मशहूर है, पॉपुलर है, सबको उसके ऊपर ध्यान रहता है, सेंट्रल रोड एंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सेस। रोड एंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सेस, इसका पहले फॉर्मर नेम वाज सेंट्रल रोड सेस। It is expected to be 11.32 lakh crores as against the collection of 11.37 lakh crores. मतलब from 2010-11 to 22-23, from when the cess has been imposed, 2010-11 to 22-23 आने वाले साल को भी इंक्लूड करते हुए 11.37 lakh crores से collection, और it is expected to utilize 11.32 lakh crores. इस सेस को कैसे उपयोग करते हैं सर? It is being utilized to create infrastructure such as road, railways, drinking water, health, telecom, etc. एक जगह पर उपयोग करते हैं क्या? नहीं, पूरे देश में उपयोग करते हैं, हर प्रांत में उपयोग करते हैं, हर रीजन में उपयोग करते हैं। आजकल हर राज्य में जहां डेवलपमेंट कम है, एस्पिरेशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट में भी उपयोग करते हैं। इसीलिए ये सेंट्रल रोड एंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर सेस का भी स्टेट्स के द्वारा ही हर पैसा उनके यहां पहुंचता है। सो सरचार्ज, सेस, इसका उपयोग भी, मैं सेस और सरचार्ज का भी बोल रही हूं, स्टेट के पास जाता है, स्टेट्स में उपयोग में आता है, स्पेसिफिकली जिस कारण कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं, जिस नाम पर कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं, उस नाम पर खर्च भी होता है सेस और सरचार्ज का। आई होप अमर पटनायक जी is able to get a complete answer on this issue which he raised. Sir, member Vishambar Prasad Nishad ji, I'm not sure if he's here, but I'll still mention.
Yes, he's here. Vishambar ji हैं, please.
Oh, okay. Sir, उनका एक कंसर्न था सर कि GST, oh yes, I couldn't see the lal too. GST on bicycles, sir, is higher at 18%. वो उनका वरी था कि बाइसाइकिल जैसे आम जनता यूज करने वाले एक चीज के ऊपर 18%. As against, sounds sensational, but he said it, as against GST rate which is very low for diamonds. कहने में अच्छा सेंसेशनल लगता है, बिल्कुल मैं मानती हूँ सेंसेशन लगता है, मगर सेंसेशन ही है। Bicycle attract a concessional GST rate at 12% and not 18% as mentioned by the member. 18% नहीं है, 12% है। मगर डायमंड्स के रेट सर जीएसटी काउंसिल ने 0.25% लगाया, बिकॉज majority of the diamonds which are imported into India are worked on, value added, and cut and polished in India, which is a big job provider. शक्ति सिंह जी को मालूम है पूरे गुजरात, सूरत और बहुत सारे इलाके में इतने छोटे छोटे यूनिट्स में ये कारोबार चलता है, लाखों से संख्या में लोग काम रोजगार मिलता है उधर। और पूरे ये डायमंड्स कट एंड पॉलिश होने के बाद एक्सपोर्ट में चले जाता है, और एक्सपोर्ट में टैक्स कोई एक्सपोर्ट करते नहीं है हम। Even if you lay a tax on something, when you send it as an export, that is drawn back. The duty is drawn back. So there is no tax burden shifted to the buyer somewhere outside. So no export carries any tax. So this export, particularly because it's providing huge jobs, employment, the higher GST, which was indicated by Nishad ji, would only mean that you will crack down on the units, make them unviable, and जो jobs मिल रहा है लोग को लाखों की संख्या में, वो सब चली जाएगा। So उसके पीछे एक लॉजिक है। Sir, I can't see Sukhendu Shekhar Roy ji, but Nadimul Haq ji is here, so I'm sure he'll take that response to him. He was worried about, and I'm equally with him on this, it's a very sensitive matter on which we have, I remember from 2019 budget making one or the other provision so that this scourge is removed from our society. Allocation for manual scavenging has been reduced to mere 5 crores is what he felt. That's not right, sir. Allocation for self-employment and rehabilitation using machines and robots, for those who want to be there, no compulsion on anybody, has been raised, and it is at 70 crores, and that is in the budget of 22-23 as against 43.31 crores in the last year's budget. So actually more needs to be supported to them as and when there is any demand. That is part of our stand-up program also at the district levels. Also on the midday meal and ICDS, it was felt that the expenditure is very low. That's also not true. Expenditure on midday meal is estimated to be somewhere at 9,418 crore as against 10,234 crores of the earlier. This is 92% of the RE itself, not the BE. So we have not reduced on that as well. Then less than 1% of GDP, he says, on education. Adequate allocation has been made, and for the first time, and I remember the education minister recognizing the fact, Dharmendra Pradhan ji, that 22-23 education budget has actually crossed 1 lakh. It is 1.04 lakh crores for education, 18% increase from the last time, sir. Similarly for women and child, so Member Sukhendu Shekhar Roy can be convinced about what has been given for social sector and particularly for education. So Member Vijay Sai Reddy Garu had spoken about GST on insurance products. I just want to say very clearly that at present, goods and services tax on health insurance service is levied at a standard rate which is 18%. But I want to underline the fact for the notice of all members that specific health insurance schemes catering to the needs of economically weaker sections, health insurance for economically weaker sections of the society and for the differently abled people, Divyang log ke liye, those schemes, I will read it out: Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, Universal Health Insurance Scheme, Jana Arogya Bima Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, Niramaya Health Insurance Scheme are all fully exempt from GST. So economically weaker section के लिए जो schemes है insurance scheme और differently able people के लिए जो insurance schemes है उसमें GST लगता नहीं है, बिल्कुल लगता नहीं है. So I just want to make sure this message is clear before us. So quite a few people have raised questions that middle class has not received anything, will you not do anything for that, and so on. But several steps which are aimed at middle class, making ease of living for middle class, have been done over two budgets, 2020, 21 budget and also the 23 budgets actually. I wouldn't want to go through the details. More than 10 different measures were taken during the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. The interest on interest was refunded, extensions have been given, also moratorium was brought in. At the same time, statutory PF contributions have all, both employers and employees, were taken up by Government of India. TDS rates for all salary payment to residents and tax collected at source reduced by 25% for specific rates. And also the Swamin Fund was created so that completion of long outstanding middle class and affordable income household projects are cleared. That itself took specifically 24,000 crores, slightly over 24,000. Till now, 4,000 housing units annually were being completed. Now 10,000 housing units are being completed every year. For the past 1 year it has been so, and it will continue to be so. So we have aimed at completing 10,000 housing units for the next 3 to 4 years. All these are aimed at the middle class. And also differential between the circle rate and agreement value rates in real estate income tax under 43, section 43 CA of the IT Act is increased from 10 to 20%, which is in favor of the middle class. This is for primary sale of residential units up to 2 crores, and consequential relief has also been provided up to 20%, and all this is being allowed for buyers of these units. Budget 21 also had a lot of provisions. I'm not getting into the detail, but I'm quite happy to share it with those members who particularly want to know about middle class, what we have done. There are quite a few things. I wouldn't want to take the time of the House on this. So Manoj Jhaji had raised a little concern saying global indices, where is India? Our position is bad. And he quoted two of them, Global Hunger Index and another inequality report. I just want to draw his attention that it's all right to quote those two. Seems like cherry picking for me, but there are others which I want to also equally highlight. And even on those two, at least on the global inequality report, the entire methodology is questionable. Because when he talks about the report talks about asset liability data being used when it is the question of the wealth of the rich, whereas when you're talking of the poor and you want to compare their level of well-being, just the liability is being taken, and bank account and other things are just being looked at only for cursory sake. So the matrix is not the same. So to take a flawed inequality report and to talk about India's position based on that is not acceptable. Whereas ease of doing World Bank report, we were in 142, now we are on 63. Access to electricity, we were on 99, today we are on 26. Global competitiveness report, World Economic Forum, we were on 71, now we are on 43. Global Innovation Index, we were on 76, now we are on 46. And all this I'm talking about 2014. Logistic Performance Index, we were on 54, today we are on 44. So I would humbly submit to our member, Manoj Jhaji, that please, yes, we have to benchmark ourselves with global standards, but take everything on board, not just one which is suitable for our narrative. Social sector budget is another issue on which Manoj Jhaji has spoken. I think this budget, particularly post the pandemic, we have taken quite a few measures so that education, particularly for children who have lost it for the last 2 years because they couldn't access, have all been given one class, one TV through PM E-Vidya, and also support, financial support which is being provided for farmers belonging to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes has been enhanced. Har Ghar Nal Se Jal, 7 crores. 8.7 crores is the current coverage. Of this, 5.5 crore households were provided tap water in the last 2 years itself. I mentioned this in the budget. 60,000 crore allocation has been made, and that is with an aim of covering 3.8 crore households in this year 22-23. So like this, there are several, even PM Awas Yojana. 80 lakh houses will be completed for the identified eligible beneficiaries, for which 48,000 crores is already allocated. So I just want to highlight that the social sector has not been forgotten. So there has been a lot of interest on virtual digital assets. Several members spoke about it. I just want to put on the record some of the observations which will help clarify very many members who raised the questions on it. Virtual digital assets, sir, has been broadly defined to include any information or code or number or even a token providing a digital representation of value which can be generated through cryptographic means or otherwise. It's broad definition. Since virtual digital assets do not only include crypto, but also other assets such as non-fungible tokens, about which I do recall former finance minister of Bihar very often speaks about NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and they can be generated in very many different ways. The definition has been kept wide and not limited to those generated through cryptographic means alone. That is, it is not limited to crypto assets alone. To clear any confusion on the matter, the central government can also notify which virtual digital asset would not be taxed as virtual digital asset. Also, it can exclude any asset which is not required to be there. So it's very clearly taking it in a very calibrated fashion. So to track the VDA transactions, TDS of 1% has been introduced, and further through the finance bill, power is sought to be delegated to CBDT to issue guidelines from time to time so that for removal of any difficulty in implementing the TDS provisions. So tax exemption limit, again a matter about middle class not being given. I think this issue has been addressed several times for the benefit of member Vijayasai Reddy who asked that question. It's very well laid out that those individuals have income of 5 lakh or less pay no income tax at all due to the rebate which is available. Even those who have income higher than the 5 lakh take a benefit of tax saving schemes and reduce their income to less than 5 lakh and pay no tax. So thus, this policy benefits a large number of middle class taxpayers. Further, I also want to say that the individuals who do not want to take benefit of tax saving schemes, exemptions of any sort, have an option which we've given in 2020 for a new concessional parallel scheme which has reduced tax rate than the old regime in which exemptions are provided. So for reduced tax rates, one can always move to this area. So also this question was raised about section 147, wherein reason to believe is the expression on which there was a lot of question raised. Reason to believe has been removed, and by this, what have you achieved is a question which some members raised. I just want to clarify on that. Reason to believe has been removed as it was leading to a lot of litigations. It has been a conscious effort, sir, to reduce litigation. However, this omission does not mean that there are no checks or on the assessing officer, power to reopen the assessments and so on. So, omitting this phrase last year, we enacted a new procedure which provides an opportunity to taxpayer to explain how he has correctly filed his tax return. So now this is more stringent and this is far more clearer, so the possibility of litigation is far lesser now. So again, I seek your indulgence. I need to go into a bit of a detail. Former Finance Minister Sri P. Chidambaram had raised a lot of questions. I'd like to respond to them one by one. Sir, he had raised this question on the capital expenditure which was mentioned in the budget. Capital expenditure as per the BE of 21-22 of this year is 5.54 lakh crores, and as per the RE of 21-22, the year ending now, is 6.03 lakh crores. The budget transparently actually discloses that the RE 21-22 estimates include that capital infusion which is made into Air India Asset Holding Company and loans to Air India for settlement of the past guaranteed and sundry liabilities not backed by assets, those liabilities which are not backed by assets amounting to 51,917 crores. This was mentioned in the budget, and we've been absolutely upfront and transparent in saying asterisk, footnotes, this 51,917 goes to Air India Asset Holding Company, which the former Finance Minister recognizes that I put it in the footnote, but questions as to how that become a capital expenditure, how that can be treated as capital expenditure. I'll address that, sir. But before that, as regards, therefore, the capital expenditure target which was set in the 21-22, the current year's budget estimate, he said you've not reached the capital expenditure target. You've put this into that account, but you've not reached the target. I would like to say, sir, if I exclude this 51,917 crore, I've actually reached 5.51 lakh crores of my BE capital expenditure. I have actually reached, of the 5.54 lakh crores, I've reached 5.51 lakh crores target that is fixed, just marginally short. But then, the treatment of this 51,917 being questioned by the former Finance Minister is what I want to answer now. Sir, accounting principle treats loans to any CPSC or loans to states are all treated as capital expenditure. This is an accounting principle. I have not brought into it. I'm sure he would know it. It just slipped his mind. So, loans and equities to CPSCs as capital expenditure is not uncommon. For instance, and this is important, for instance, in 2011-12, Government of India made equity infusion into this very same Air India. 2011-12, Government of India made equity infusion into Air India of 1,200 crores. In the RE of 2012, 13, and again in BE of 13 and 14 as well. And in BE of 2013-14, again to the Air India, equity support of 6,000 crores and 5,000 crores respectively were given. वो capital expenditure था sir, तब भी वो capital expenditure है, अब भी वो capital expenditure है. To raise a question saying, how did you include this in the capital expenditure? By including it, you thought you actually not reached it, you have not met the target, but because you have not met the target, you wanted to add this, which is not to be included, was his argument. But I'm sorry, when you gave it in 11 and 12 to this very same Air India, it was capital expenditure, and I say that. And I'm saying that even now what I've given at 51,917 crore is capital expenditure. At least I've said it openly and put it in the footnote also saying I've done this. So often these supports were provided to CPSEs, central government's public service sector undertakings, to clear their liabilities. Honorable members may be informed, but I would like to take this opportunity to say, yes, capital expenditure, the treatment as per the accounting principle is that this is capital expenditure. But it also accepts that some of these amounts, not entirely everything, but some of these amounts could be used for clearing the liabilities, including employee cost and VRS and so on, then and now. Then it was utilized for that purpose somewhat, and now it may be utilized somewhat for that purpose. So even medical benefits are also used. But when it is given to a CPSE or when it is given to a state government as loan, it is under the category of capital expenditure. So I want to make that very, very clear, sir. So the same principle holds for the second issue which Honorable former Finance Minister raised, saying you're giving 1 lakh crore to the states for them to spend on capital expenditure. They'll have to be running from pillar to post to raise this loan. I'm not exactly using the words, but he said somewhat something like this. No, no. Center is giving it to the states, interest-free, 50 years, saying you please use it for capital expenditure. So, through that we expect that assets will be created. So, to be clear, accountancy principle, economic principle and real terms, this is capital expenditure. Former Finance Minister, I would like to say it, he is not here, but I'm sure the message will reach him. So, please. 1 lakh crore provided to the states is being provided for states to spend on creating assets. It is interest-free.
Please sit down. Please.
It is interest-free.
Please, you continue. Please, you continue, please. You continue.
All right. If
No,
you
please,
allow,
you continue. Please, Anilji. Please, Anilji. I'm not allowing you. I'm not allowing you, please. Please sit down. Please sit. Please sit. Please sit. You continue.
thank you.
Sir, nothing will go on record.
Listen,
only
I leave.
ministers will. No, please you continue. No, please you continue. Please, Manya Mantri ji. Manya Mantri ji. Manya Mantri ji. Please you sit down. No, I will not allow. No. Manya Mantri ji. You continue, please.
Sir,
No.
this money given to the states.
After, no, please. Please sit down. You continue, please. You continue, please. मंत्री जी की स्पीच केवल रिकॉर्ड में जाएगी. Nothing will go on record.
That we know, sir. That
This money which is being given
I will
to
allow.
the states.
No, I will try to. Please, you are a senior member. Please sit down. Please sit down. I am not allowing you. Please.
Given to the states. for
No,
50
please
years.
sit down. Please sit down.
And
Please.
this
No, I will not allow right now.
A geographical
After that, I will. Let her complete. No, please. No, please. Please sit down. Please sit down. Please.
I'm sitting down because you are standing.
Let Mantri ji complete her speech. Then I can allow. Please, you continue.
Why are you trying to become your mantri?
You continue.
Sir, the states, when they get this money for 50 years interest-free, they can spend it for their capital expenditure and create assets, and this is being given so that capital asset creation, capital expenditure, which is so required for the environment which is so, prevailing now, where recovery is important. We have given this so that every state gets an opportunity to participate in this infrastructure building through which states can add to the momentum of recovery. So then, former finance minister also moved to talk about GDP growth rate and also the inflation. He raised an issue which he did raise, if I remember correct, even when he spoke after the budget presentations, when the discussion on the budget was happening this year. He had raised this issue then, and I have answered it then, but he's raised it again, and I wish to answer it again. Budget documents shown nominal growth rate at 11.1%, he recalled. And the CA in his interview had said something that the real growth rate would be 8% for 22-23. The chief economic advisor, yes, is part of the ministry, but his report and his assessments are normally his own. The ministry keeps that report at an arm's distance, is something which all of us know, and I'm sure the party from where he comes, and he's been finance minister, he would appreciate that point. He had raised this question, therefore, that does this mean the inflation for the next financial year is going to be only 3.1%? Now, I want to address this, sir. The government is conscious of the need to balance the imperatives of growth and also make sure India's recovery post the COVID is sustained and sustainable. And the budget reflects this commitment and outlays the way forward. But the balance that I'm talking about is, whilst giving the emphasis for growth, we are also conscious of the inflation. Now, economic survey reflects an independent assessment, as I said, of the state of the economy and also the projections for the economy. The budget of 22-23, which I presented, and with today, I suppose somewhere we'll leave the closure, we'll come to the closure of discussion on it. The budget of 22-23, is prepared based on the advanced estimates which are given in 21-22 and which gets published this time, which got published on 7th January 2022, which is the NSO publication. And we believe that we did not, and I'm very confident that we did not factor in the Omicron, which came immediately after the budget was presented, which began late January 22. Therefore, the GDP growth estimates for the next year are conservative. And I just want to highlight, Ukraine is a new factor, no doubt. Honorable Finance Minister, former Finance Minister raised that issue also. The hike, unprecedented hike in the fuel prices is also a new challenge. However, I just want to submit before the honorable members that we take a whole year's picture when we make the budget, or whole year's picture is before us when we talk of the economy, rather than reviewing it and reassessing it on a weekly basis or even on a monthly basis. So I want to highlight that fact and also say, insofar as the inflation issue is concerned, the WPI indices is the deflator. In the deflator has been very high in the current year compared to the CPI indices. CPI as in Consumer Price Index indices. We are hopeful that the WPI indices will shrink going forward, and the deflator over the real economic growth will be lower in the next financial year. But I would want to humbly recall, and I'm not sure if member Narendra Jadhav is here, post the submission of the budget, and at that time when the House discussed the budget, I remember the intervention Sri Narendra Jadhav ji, honorable member, made about what exactly is this deflator. It's not the CPI, it's not the WPI. Then what exactly is it? It does have CPI, it does have WPI. So to reduce this whole debate to saying, are you then telling me that your inflation calculation is only at 3.1? It was a bit disappointing, coming as it did from the former finance minister. But for the record's sake, I want to quote the words of Honorable Member Narendra Jadhav talking about the deflator, the concept of deflator. And I quote here, sir. He had said at that time, I think it was on 9th February 22, Narendra Jadhav ji, I quote him, the difference between the nominal GDP growth rate and the real GDP growth rate is not the CPI inflation, nor is it the WPI inflation. The difference between the two is actually the widest measure of inflation called the GDP deflator. And the inflation based on the GDP deflator, which is embedded in this budget of 3.1%, is perfectly feasible. Why? I'm quoting. Why? Because I have worked out for the last 5 years. Narendra Jadhav ji says, I have worked out for the last 5 years, 5 years ending pre-COVID year of 2019-20, and it turns out that the average inflation, sorry about that.
So I have just written on this. A lot of time in the house.
Okay. No, they call you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I continue, sir.
Yes.
Why? Because I have worked out for the last 5 years, 5 years ending the pre-COVID year of 1920, and it turns out that the average inflation rate based on the GDP inflator in our country is 3.15%, which is not very different from 3.1% incorporated in the present budget, unquote. So, an economist, Narendra Jadhav, member of this House, speaking on the current budget on 9th February 2022, has said this, sir, about the deflator. It might just be good for us to draw it for answering the Honorable former Finance Minister who raised that issue. Sir, he also raised, former Finance Minister also raised this question about the proportion of direct taxes and the indirect taxes as a percentage of the GDP, and he felt that because the indirect taxes proportion is higher than the direct taxes, that it is very regressive. I just want to put the facts here, sir. Yes, if indirect taxes are more than direct taxes in terms of their contribution to the GDP, it is regressive, and nobody works, at least I'm not, or none of us here, or my predecessor, Sri Arun Jaitley, none of us worked consciously to make the indirect taxes contribute more to the GDP than the direct taxes. But the facts will have to be laid before, sir. The main reason for increase in share of indirect tax, which was the case now, he conceded, I must say, former Finance Minister conceded now that it is coming to probably equal 5.1%, but ideally direct taxes should be more than the indirect taxes. I concede that. But I want to lay the facts before. The main reason for increase in share of indirect taxes, sir, is GST compensation cess, which is a temporary arrangement. For instance, in 21-22, RE of 21-22 includes 1.05 lakh crores on account of GST compensation cess. If we exclude this amount, from indirect taxes, then the share of indirect taxes as a percentage of GDP is less than 5%. it will be at 4.97% compared to the 5.4% of the direct taxes. So direct taxes are higher. But of course, because of the compensation, which is a necessary step forward, we'll have to do it. Similarly, in BE 22-23, share of indirect taxes, sir, excluding the GST compensation, which is at 1.20 lakh crores, is estimated to be at 4.7% of GDP, which is lesser as compared to 5.5% of the direct taxes, which is for the forthcoming year from 1st April. So that point is well taken, sir. The one other point, which will be the last point on the...
Slides, correct. Slides.
Quite a big one.
Slides.
No, because it's gone inside, sir. That gadget should be kept outside rather than keep... Sir, there was a very, which I felt a bit odd, issue that former finance minister raised, saying faith in the private sector investors is being lost. Meaning he questioned, is it that the government has lost faith in the private investors? I just want to address that because it's a very important issue and our position can be explained. The pandemic created huge uncertainties, sir, that seriously impacted private sector investments. The government stepped in to fill the gap up, and create environment necessary to revive and sustain investments from the private sector. And we believe that the government and the private sector are partners in ushering development in this economy. There is no us versus them when it comes to government versus private sector. To set up private sector investments, the government has launched PLI in 14 sectors, which is expected to add additional productive capacity of over 30 lakh crores over the next 5 years. That is a way in which private sector is also being nudged to come into, spending their money in investments. And PM Gati Shakti, sir, is also one of the transformative approach, wherein about 7 different, if I may envision that as 7 different horses leading PM Gati Shakti of growth. It will pull forward the economy, leading to huge jobs and entrepreneurial skills of people, and that will itself be a great contribution from the private sector. And I had said in the budget speech that it will only help in crowding in private sector investments. Sir, I wouldn't take more time, but there are issues which former finance minister raised, and I need to address it, particularly on the finance bill. He had commented saying, in this finance bill, there are 125 clauses, out of which 84 pertains to Income Tax Act. And then you have moved 39 government amendments with I would think, a tinge of criticism, with an element of sarcasm. He said 125 clauses, of which 84 pertain to income tax, but you're bringing in 39 amendments over it. Can anyone understand? He couldn't understand, he said, but, well, I'd like to explain it now, and hopefully you'll be able to understand it better. Sir, amendments to various tax acts are a regular feature of every finance bill. The amendments carried out taking into account the changes in trade and commerce, and you know for one, sir, that we have made a practice of tabling the budget and after that going around the country and talking with people in the intermission. And when the parliament resumes, we come back to deal with the reply and also the standing committees and the demand for grants which have been debated in the House for various departments and ministries. Then we take it up, and therefore at that stage, if we think we need to bring in amendments, we don't hesitate, and therefore this time 39 amendments. I just want to say, sir, these changes are not happening for the first time. Former finance minister would, I'm sure, remember that in Finance Act 2009, there were 117 sections, which is what he refers to as clauses, because when a bill is passed, the sections clauses become sections. So we are talking about the same things. So where he said 125 clauses, out of which 84 pertain to income tax, you bringing 39 amendments, I just want to draw the example of Finance Act 2009. There were 117 sections, out of which 84 belong to direct taxation. Very comparable. In the Finance Acts of 2012, there were 156 sections minus 125, that was 156. Out of which 113 belong to direct taxes. So comparable, sir. So why is when this government, Modi's government presented, something becomes a matter of, I don't know. So government amendments are concerned, this, so far as government amendments are concerned, sir, this is because we, as I said, consult the stakeholders, come back, and if necessary, improve on it by bringing in further amendments. That is why 39 amendments have been brought in. So moving on to the issue of charities. He said amendments are being brought in, very welcome to bring in changes, but 8 pages of amendments, he questioned that. There is a section 1023C, 1023C, where amendments are done along with amendments in section 11, 12, 12A, 12AB, all these amendments cripple the charitable activity. This was an observation made by the former finance minister, that these amendments will cripple the charitable activities. They would prefer to pay tax rather than comply with these provisions. I'm sure many of the members can recall. He did say that people will say, take my tax and leave me free. But I just want to say in response, there are 2 regimes, sir, when you're dealing with the charities. One is the section 1023C. Vijay Sai Reddy Garu is here, who is a chartered accountant. He can also vouch for it. And other is the section 11 and 12. There were complexities in the 2 regimes, and as a result of which, even for a small violation, entire receipt of the taxpayer was being taxed on gross basis. There is this, whether it should be treated as gross or net. What we have done, and this was causing a lot of hardship and leading to a lot of litigation, therefore the amendments have been moved so that both the regimes are brought at par. They can be treated equally. Now consistency has been brought into the 2 regimes. Amendments have also been moved to provide clarity in taxation. At present, there are conditions which have to be satisfied for claiming these exemptions. These conditions are not new and have been there for a long time. But there was a lack of clarity, and it is that clarity which we've brought in here. So I think what is being done now is done keeping in mind that the assessees are not put to trouble. Ambiguities don't lead to litigation. So instead of making it as though it is crippling the trust, it's actually welcomed. In fact, during the intermission when we went around the country, people did welcome. I don't know which are the chartered accountants who have told the former minister that this is complicating, this is going to cripple, whereas chartered accountants who met me have said, welcome move, it will bring clarity. So also on the accreted income, that it is regressive and it is a burdensome provision. Now I'm sorry, I would like to say this. For example, sir, this is about charities and hospitals. I hope members are able to keep in, following the detailed narrative that I'm giving. It's only because issues have been raised, I would want to make this. I'll take this opportunity to explain. I wouldn't take much more time, sir. The concept of accreted income was first introduced in 2016. This year it has been made applicable to both the regimes. For example, sir, if there is a charitable hospital which converts into a non-charitable hospital and there are no tax consequences for this conversion, the hospital will make advantage of these provisions and accumulate wealth for their personal benefit at the cost of the poor people who come to these hospitals for treatment and on whose name tax benefits are given. So, for example, there is a charitable hospital which receives donations and to be applied for as charity. It builds more and more hospitals from the donations received. The assets have been created out of public money, exempted of tax. Now, it decides to convert into commercial hospital. Will it be fair, therefore, for us to leave it without, taxing them for personal gains? So that is the answer for the accredited income, which is an issue raised by the former finance minister. There are also issues about faceless assessment, which is questioned, and I think most of the taxpayers I have interacted with are very happy that the faceless assessment has now removed the element of discretion leading to corruption, and this many of them have felt should continue. And I remember Honorable Finance Minister, former Finance Minister, saying assessment units, technical units, and review units. How many units? People, assessee doesn't go from one unit to another, sir. He sits at his home, sends his reply. The system moves it to different units so that there is fairness, there is transparency, there is no discretion. So it is not a burden to the taxpayer. The system does it. Yes, there are 3 silos through which it goes. So I want to assure, sir, that there is no element of harassment of the people who are assessees. There were issues of language also, sir, but I won't take the House's time on it. So there was a very quick reference by some members on the BSNL. What have you done to BSNL? Other than what has not been done by us, or other than what was done earlier, I would just want to recall how this government under Prime Minister Modi has actually supported BSNL and kept it vibrant. So, voluntary retirement scheme received 30,000 crores from this government. For VRS, for BSNL and MTNL, 92,956 employees have benefited from it. Sovereign guarantee of 15,000 crores has been given to BSNL, MTNL for raising bonds. 15,000 crores have been given. Administrative allotment of spectrum to BSNL, which was not done earlier, for rollout of 4G services, which was not done earlier, have been done by us. 24,000 crores have been given by us for 5G services to be allotted on the same principle as 4G allotments. So quite a few non-core and core assets are also being reviewed for monetization. So BSNL is getting a treatment which it had not had, and as a result of which it had suffered. So I'm tempted to talk about the oil prices. The story has been said in this House earlier. Just one line will probably explain it. We are dealing with a situation which is arisen out of the global war-like situation. The war has been raging for a long time. You have not raised it at that time. Now you're raising it. Absolutely untrue, sir. The disruption and a resultant increase in price of the global oil and also disruption to supply are all happening since a couple of weeks ago, and we are responding to it. Various steps have been taken by the government. But let me remind this House that taxpayers of today are paying for the subsidy which was dished out to the consumers more than a decade ago in the name of oil bonds, and they will continue to pay for the next 5 years as the redemption of the bonds continue till 2026. So that burden is also on us now for the benefits given apparently through the oil bonds raised 10 years ago. So I would like to put that on record. Allegations were made that even Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji had raised oil bonds. I just want to put the number in context. Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji's government had raised bonds. The bonds issued were for 9,000 crores, and they were one-time action rather than a continuous policy. Whereas there is a huge difference in the magnitude between 9,000 crores, which was one time, that had to be repaid on account of Vajpayee's government's oil bonds, and the more than 2 lakh crores, which was raised during the UPA's oil bonds, which is getting paid even now. So, funding oil at a higher cost has an honest way of doing it and a way in which you just book it on somebody else and some other government keeps paying for it. We have not done that, sir. So I want to just highlight that and the way in which inflation is being kept under control. There are data to prove how the pulse inflation was high, meaning dal wala, which was running to 100% above the points, and the way in which we are handling it. One last point, members not here, but I would like to say, आम आदमी पार्टी का बजट देख लीजिए, उससे आप पता चलेगा कि कैसे अच्छा बजट बनाना. सर, जिस राज्य का, मैं किसी राज्य का कम दिखाती नहीं हूं, मगर सच बोलना है. उस बजट से अगर मैं सीखना चाहिए, तो मेरा पुलिस का बजट किसी और के हाथ में रहता, मेरा डिफेंस के पास बजट कोई और भरता, और मेरे लिए किसान का कुछ भी बजट करने की आवश्यकता नहीं है. I don't have a farm budget, I don't have expenditure on account of police, I don't have to take care of defense of this country. फिर बजट बनाना आसान है सर. और ऊपर से हम रोजाना भारत देश में जितने भी पत्रिकाएं हैं और न्यूज़पेपर हैं, उसमें फ्रंट पेज का पूरे पेज का एडवर्टाइजमेंट नहीं करते. वो बजट का अगर वो पैसा बच जाते हैं, उस पैसा भी दिल्ली के पोल्यूशन कंट्रोल के लिए उपयोग में आता. मगर उसको भी मैं सीखना है क्या? एडवर्टाइजमेंट का अलग बजट जो जितना है उसको भी देखना चाहिए, ना कि इधर आकर के हमें लेक्चर सुनाना कि इधर से सीख लो, उधर से सीख लो, मेरा बजट देख लो. आपके बजट पुलिस का खर्च नहीं है, आर्मी का खर्च नहीं है, केंद्र सरकार देखभाल करती है आपका, किसान का बजट नहीं है. बजट अच्छा ही है सर फिर. So, thank you very much, sir, for having given me the time.
Anil Desai ji.
Thank you, Vice Chairman, sir. And with all due respect to, I tried to intervene, but I could understand I was disturbing your flow and you just didn't yield. But all the same, my question was, I needed a clarification. So this is a provision of 51,000 crore, which has been taken as a capital expenditure and shown accordingly, and which was raised by Honorable former Finance Minister Chidambaram ji. I wanted to know clearance of liabilities, and that too of varied natures, which has been mentioned and even mentioned by Nirmala ji. That liabilities of varied nature, and Air India being no more state-owned company where the share of Indian government has gone down. It should have been shown in a different column. It goes into under the line of loan, and certainly not capital expenditure. Capital expenditures means creation of a tangible asset. Yes. I mean, which is absolutely not there. And one more, this thing is regarding the inflation. Regarding the inflation, what the Honorable Finance Minister said, that CPI, that Consumer Price Index and Wholesale Price Index, the index goes back to 10 years. I mean, it is not revised. So naturally, inflation, whatever is being mentioned or whatever way it is being taken into account, that gives a false picture. And GDP, nominal GDP and real GDP definitely has a thing which I need clarification.
No, now we move. I shall first put the no, please. I shall first put motion regarding consideration of Appropriation Bill 2022 to vote. The question is that Appropriation Bill 2022 as passed by Lok Sabha to be taken into consideration. Those in favor will say, please say aye. Aye. Those against will say no. I think ayes have it, ayes have it, ayes have it. The motion is adopted. We shall now take up clause by clause consideration of the bill. The clause 2 to 4 and the schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Those against will please say no. I think ayes have it, ayes have it, ayes have it. The clause 2 to 4 and the schedule are adopted. Clause 1 enacting formula and the title stand part of the bill. Those in favor may please say aye. Those against will please say no. I think ayes have it, ayes have it, ayes have it. The clause 1 enacting formula and the title are adopted. Now, Mantriji, that bill to be returned.
Sir, I move that the bill be returned.
The motion moved that the bill will be returned. The question is that the bill be returned. Those in favor will please say aye. Those against will please say no. I think ayes have it, ayes have it, ayes have it. The bill is returned. Now I shall put motion regarding consideration of the Finance Bill 2022 to vote. Question is that the Finance Bill 2022 is passed by the Lok Sabha to be taken into consideration. Those in favor will please say aye. Those against will please say no. I think ayes have it, ayes have it, ayes have it. The motion is adopted. We shall now take up clause by clause consideration of the bill. 2 to 126 and the 1st to 9th schedules stand part of the bill. Those in favor will please say aye. Those against will please say no. I think ayes have it, ayes have it, ayes have it. The clause 2 to 126, the 1st to 9th schedules are adopted. Clause 1, the enacting formula and the title stand part of the bill. Those in favor will please say aye. Those against will please say no. I think ayes have it, ayes have it, ayes have it. The clause 1 enacting formula and the title are adopted. Now, Manya Mantriji, to move that bill to be returned.
Sir, I move that the bill be returned.
Motion moved that the bill be returned. The question is that the bill be returned. Those in favor will please say aye. Those against will please say no. I think ayes have it, ayes have it, ayes have it. Bill is returned. Now we will take up next bill. Sri Arjun, the Constitution's Scheduled Caste and the Scheduled Tribe Order Amendment Bill 2022. Now Shri Arjun Munda to move for the consideration of Constitution Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribe Order Amendment Bill 2022.
आदरणीय उपसभापति महोदय, अनुसूचित जाति जनजाति आदेश संशोधन विधेयक 2022 को आज विचार में लाया जाए। इस संबंध में हमने सदन को अवगत कराया है कि सदन इस पर विचार करे। अनुसूचित जनजातियों की सूची में क्रम संख्या 3 पर सूचीबद्ध भोक्ता को विलोपित करना, अनुसूचित जनजातियों की सूची में पुराण के तौर पर नई प्रविष्टि को शामिल करना तथा अनुसूचित जनजातियों की सूची में क्रम संख्या 16 में भोक्ता देशवारी, गंजू, दौलतबंदी, पटवर्दी, राउत, मझिया, खैरी को खरवार के पर्यायवाची रूप में प्रविष्ट के तौर पर शामिल करना एवं अनुसूचित जनजातियों की सूची में क्रम संख्या 24 में मुंडा के पर्यायवाची के रूप में तमड़िया को शामिल करना। यह विषय हमने प्रस्तुत किया है, इस पर चर्चा का आग्रह करता हूँ।
फर्स्ट स्पीकर, क्योंकि 1 घंटे का समय इसके लिए अलॉट हुआ है। फर्स्ट स्पीकर श्री समीर। नो मोशन मूव हो गया, माननीय मंत्री जी बोले। मोशन मूव। Member desire to speak to me, so after which minister will reply. Shri Narendra Bhai Rathwa.
Sorry.
Naval, he is no.